Why did the chicken join the band?
Why did the chicken join? I don't know.
Because he had the drumsticks.
I should have guessed that one.
Hungry Squared, bringing you the best food talk anywhere.
Welcome to the Hungry Squared podcast, where the brain and belly meet. I'm Sharon from the Wasatch Cooking Guide.
And I'm Winter from theredparty.com. This week, we're talking about breakfast toaster foods. Is that our topic?
Breakfast from your toaster.
Yes, breakfast from your toaster. And toasters too, actually. Let's talk about it.
Hungry Squared.
Hello, Sharon.
Hey, Winter.
How are you doing today?
Good.
Awesome. Glad to be here recording the pod with you.
Yeah.
Oh, I probably shouldn't say pod. A lot of people hate that. The podcast.
Pod.
I
Tide
like saying,
pod.
Don't eat Tide Pods, but listen to our podcast. What'd you eat this week?
I went to a Harmon's grocery cooking class.
Sweet.
Harmon's is a local grocery chain in Utah. They are family owned. It's kind of like the more upscale place if you want to get your groceries there. They have a lot of local foods, like a lot of local Utah foods and stuff like that, like producers and things like that they feature.
It is great. Like, I love going there from like, I need a Ruby Snap cookie.
Yeah.
Or I need a, anything that they have. It's really nice. The Utah's own brand.
Yeah. They've got a lot of good stuff. But they also have a cooking school, and they do tons of different cooking classes. They've got state-of-the-art professional demo kitchens in many of their stores.
Yeah.
And they hire classically trained chefs who've been to culinary school and have worked in restaurants and things like that. And they hire them to teach the public how to cook and to do private events and stuff like that. And so if you wanted to do like a private event there and have them just kind of cater it, a nice sit-down dinner, you can do that. Or you can also do like a cooking class, or you can schedule a private event for like a cooking class or something like that. But they just have these classes on offer every month, and they vary very widely. Like there's a knife skills class.
I took that one. That one was so much fun.
Yeah.
And they gave you a knife.
Yeah, it's a really good deal.
Yes, it's a great deal.
The classes are usually all under about $100, anywhere from like 50 to 85, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I'd say probably 65 is the common price point.
Yeah, that's usually. And I've done a Thai cooking class. They've got some different types of wine and cheese pairings, different types of beer flights, like learning about beer and how that's brewed. And they've got, making your own pasta, French cooking,
seafood.
Yeah, tons of different things.
Lee and I did a Ghirardelli chocolate desserts one. Yeah, that was the one to go to.
Nice. Yeah, so I went to a cooking class this last weekend, and our theme was Mexican street tacos.
Ooh.
And it was really good.
Awesome. Okay.
So we made carne asada tacos.
Okay, great.
We also made some grilled chicken tacos and some shrimp tacos.
Okay, so it was mostly probably a few chopping up some ingredients, fresh ingredients for later. And then probably taking the meat and putting them into smaller pieces to grill up.
Well, so yeah, we grilled the meat. We kind of did some rubs on the meat and grilled it. And then we also did a quick pickling of some onions.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a really good addition to the tacos.
So are we talking like white or yellow onions, or and then just a vinegar?
Yeah, just red wine vinegar with some pickling spices, and then you just kind of let that simmer and go while you are grilling the meat. And then we also had like some fresh baked guac and some fresh salsas and stuff like that.
Okay, so all the stuff that goes along with street tacos. I love those classes. They are so well done, and it's fun to go with friends, or I've gone by myself too. And you just meet people because you're working in usually a group of...
It's usually about a group of four.
Four, right? And so... And which is nice because you wouldn't be able to do all of that by yourself and also kind of listen and learn at the same time.
Yeah, it's a little bit of high pressure if you're going to prepare all of the food yourself, but it's a little bit more fun. And of course it's interactive, but you learn a lot as you're cooking with other people, even if you've not cooked with them before.
Yeah.
And it's actually quite fun.
Yeah. I'll put a link in the show notes because I think they do offer some good quality classes for I think a really good price.
Yeah. So what did you eat this week?
Well, we kind of ate the same thing too. I'm not talking street tacos, but we went to an event at We Olive and Wine Bar.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just an event for some local influencers and such. And I walked in late, and Sharon, I was like, "Oh, hey, Sharon!" She was there already talking to some people. I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I'm late. I'm out of breath. I kind of booked it over here." She was like, "Well, have some of this. You got to try this." And so she gave me a glass of something, and she's like,
It was a glass of deliciousness.
Yes. I don't drink. So I knew it wasn't alcoholic because it's also, they do serve wine and such there. But she handed this to me. I was like, "Oh, what is it?" And then so I took a little drink. I was like, "Ooh, I like this." And I was like, "It's a shrub, isn't it?" And Sharon looked at me like,
"How did you know? And why are you keeping this from me?"
I know. I was like, "I don't know why I've never told you about a shrub before." So a shrub, if you don't know what that is usually, it's, I guess it's a water. The base is water, mm-hmm. or a sparkling water. You can do either, I believe. And there's usually two kind of ingredients. There's some fruit of some sort.
Yep.
And a vinegar of some sort.
Yeah.
Not a ton of vinegar.
Nope.
Just a splash of vinegar. So it gives a little bit of tartness with the fruit, but then there's kind of a little bit more tartness with the vinegar.
Yeah. So the vinegar that they used was a peach balsamic. Mm-hmm. And it's really potent.
So they didn't use very much.
But it was really yummy.
Yeah. So it's really refreshing. Vinegars in general. And it was a white balsamic vinegar. Mm-hmm. So We Olive does specialty olive oils, California olive oils, and balsamic vinegars, which is really kind of fun. If you ever get a chance to go check them out, they're in California. They've got places all over the United States, but one just opened up here in Utah a year ago.
Yeah, about a year ago.
And Josh and his mom opened it up, and we got to meet them. That was really fun to talk to them. But that was the thing. I was like, "Oh man, I haven't had a shrub forever." So the reason I got introduced to shrubs, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, when a cousin had us over for dinner, and they're like, "Oh, here, try this." And it was like a strawberry shrub. And we're like, "What is this?" It was like, because we couldn't quite put our finger on the vinegar part, because you don't expect vinegar to be in your drink.
Yeah, you don't expect to consume any kind of copious amount of that other than dipped in your bread or something.
Exactly. And it's just odd to have in a drink. But there was just enough kick to it that it just makes it surprising and very, I think, refreshing. Some people do not like it. I get that. But mm-hmm. I really liked it. And so Lee and I toyed around with an idea of actually creating shrubs on our own, and
I think you should
packaging them, because if you can get some good combinations, it would be good. But gosh, it was super easy because they already just had the peach balsamic vinegar that was all ready to go.
Yeah,
it was easy. So yeah, if you get a chance to do that I ended up buying some of that peach balsamic so I could make my own shrub.
Excellent.
And just have it, because it really was very refreshing. I loved it.
It was so good. And I went home that night and I looked up some different shrub recipes.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah. And I found both alcoholic and non-alcoholic shrub recipes.
There's ways to do things. Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, it kind of does taste like a cocktail a little bit. There is kind of like that fermented taste to it. And I think that's why not all people love it.
Yeah.
Is because, I mean, that is a pretty pungent, strong flavor.
Yeah.
But it was super tasty.
It was very refreshing. I thought the night that we went was quite warm, actually. Mm-hmm. And so it was like it was very refreshing, especially having booked it in that. I was like, "I'm sorry, I'm late."
And it makes for a really sophisticated mocktail instead of trying to laden your guests up with sugary sodas or something like that.
Yep. Totally. I agree. It was yummy. Go check it out. And I'll put a link in the show notes as well.
And now for the main course.
So, toaster breakfasts. Breakfast from your toaster.
Why did we start?
Oven from the oven, but it's a toaster.
It's a toaster. How did we come upon this? I don't even know how we came upon this.
I had a bright idea to do Pop-Tarts.
Oh, yeah. And then we're like, well, yeah, let's expand that a little because Pop-Tarts probably have a bit of history.
Right, they do.
And so we decided to talk about toasters.
Right. And then we may as well talk about Toaster Strudel and Eggo Waffles.
Yeah, because
why not?
Because why not? It's a thing in itself. And I feel like this one, when we both started talking about it, that it would have a lot of design aspects to it because, man alive, those Pop-Tarts, they're kind of unreal, right? They're not a piece of bread.
No, they're not. And they're not quite a tart either.
Nope. Mm-mm. So Sharon, can I tell you a little bit about the toaster though?
Let's start with the meat of the matter.
Yes, the toaster. Okay, you guys, I was like, for some reason, I don't know why I got really excited, but I was like, there's actually a lot of history about the toaster.
Nice.
People have been wanting toasted bread for some time now.
Well, and I think it's really interesting that the design of the toaster hasn't really changed much in the last little while, a century maybe?
I'd say,
or
well,
like
we'll talk a little bit
less than that.
But I would say from the 50s on.
Okay.
Really hasn't changed a ton, I would say. Now, let's back up even one step more. Let's talk about toast.
Oh, and how your child doesn't like toast?
My child does not like toast. Yeah, she loves bread, but she does not like toast. I'm like, what's wrong with you? She's not my child. She's probably Lee's child in that sense. Okay, so people love bread, right?
Yeah.
Now, the tricky thing is back in the day, and I'm talking like centuries ago, right? You know, you have bread and we love bread. It was tricky though, because you had bread in Egypt, like the desert heat would make that bread become hard to eat.
Stale, kind of dries it out a little bit.
Exactly. It really is just not great, right? Because fresh bread is so good. It's delicious. Now the solution then is toast. If you think about it, it's a way to preserve the bread, changing it from the stale product to something that actually has some Maillard reaction going on.
Okay.
It's lovely and it's more palatable. So your bread is lasting longer and you could smother that with whatever you want. Honey, jam, butter, all the good stuff. So the practice of toasting bread became popular in the Roman Empire. The word toast actually comes from the Latin toastum, which means to burn or scorch. And a lot of times they would just be laying it in front of a fire on a hot stone or something like that.
Oh, okay.
So you could do that. Now, later devices, obviously, and you may have seen these in like camping stores and stuff like that, but the little wire frames.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about? You just stick some bread between wire frames and hang it out in front of the fire.
Kind of like a s'more stick. There's a little rack that goes on your s'more stick, but your bread can be sealed in that.
We had to start with bread that got stale, and a way to resolve that was to toast it, which would preserve its tastiness in a sense. So then along came the toaster, because, you know, we try and make things better for ourselves instead of putting it on a hot stone or... Right. We gotta find ways. It was actually invented in 1893 in Scotland, and I was a little surprised about that, actually, because...
they're smart.
They are. No, I was just thinking 1893. I'm like...
Yeah.
There's not a lot going on in 1893. I guess toast was a big deal back then. Alan McMasters was the guy who did it. The tricky thing, though, was the way he made it. It was a nice precursor to the toaster. The wiring he made would often melt and create a fire hazard. And at the time, I just want to point out, electricity wasn't really widespread. Like you weren't able to.
Oh, sure. It wasn't reliable.
No. Yeah. A lot of
everybody
times
had it.
A lot of times just in the evenings, you may have had electricity when the sun went down, that type of thing. So there was kind of some drawbacks. He had a good little go at it. He has his name in the book as the inventor of the toaster, the first toaster, which is awesome because, yeah, why not? What ended up happening in regards to how it's changed from then is that the heating element was kind of the key, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we had issues with this other heating element that would melt, creating a fire hazard. Okay, that was a tricky thing. So the next people that came along that kind of helped with it, Albert Marsh in 1905, he was a young engineer and he designed an alloy for those heating elements out of nickel and chromium, which was a little bit better. It was called Nichrome.
Okay.
Nichrome. Got it? Yeah. That actually helped considerably. Now, there was another person that came along. It was George Schneider of the American Electric Heater Company in Detroit. He collaborated with Albert Marsh to come up with the first U.S. patent for the electric toaster. Once again, still tweaking that wire situation because it was really, really tough to get it just right. So then we move on, and in 1913, another gentleman and his wife, Lloyd Groff Kopman, and his wife Hazel, they actually went after several patents for various toaster patents.
Nice.
The same year that the Kopman Electric Stove Company, they introduced the toaster with an automatic bread turner.
Oh.
Because a lot of times you would have a heating element, you'd have to put it in, attend to it, you'd have to watch it, and then flip it because there would only be one side. And so this one turned your bread for you. Toaster that turns toast. Yeah, so that was kind of you had to flip it by hand before this. And so gave it a nice little automatic turn your toast around because I like toasted toast on both sides.
Yeah,
some
I'm
people
sure
don't.
A lot of people do nowadays, maybe.
There are toasters that are specifically only one-sided for such things as bagels. Like if you only want to, so you know, there's applications for it, but not as much, right? I don't think so. Now, the automatic pop-up toaster, which would actually eject your toast, like, would pop it up, was first patented in 1921 by Charles Strite. Then it was again retweaked in 1925 of this Strite toaster that they would have it. So it was the first automatic pop-up one that could brown bread on both sides. So you had a heating element on both sides and a timer, and then this ejection part. So can you see that it was just, okay, one side. Heating element's not good. Okay, fix the heating element, got the heating element. Okay, now we're going to get one that will turn your bread to get both sides. Oh, why don't we get something that pops up? Okay, so it doesn't burn, right? And then they're like, oh, we should do two heating elements. So we don't have to even turn it. It'll just be in there and then it will pop up. And that's basically your toaster that we have today, right? I mean, that's the basic. I would say, that's basically the main stuff. I mean, there are a lot of commercial toasters out there, Sunbeam. I mean, I guess every single major small appliance company has some sort of toaster version. Now, I think this is really interesting because what are the features of a toaster that make it appealing?
Well, now they have the cancel button.
Yes.
So if you have to put your toast down more than once, maybe, or if maybe you selected your browning setting, which is another perk.
Mm-hmm.
You've selected your browning setting and maybe it's a little too high, or you saw the time and you have to dash out the door in the morning for work or school. You can just press the cancel button and up will pop your toast.
Exactly.
It will just stop. Or our toaster at home has a frozen button.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
Oh, man, you're fancy.
It is fancy.
I'm like, what the heck?
It was the cheapest one that I could find at Target.
Oh.
I have had bad luck with toasters and have broken a few somehow. They've dropped or whatever. I don't know. They've gotten knocked around and they just break.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
So I've had to buy a couple of toasters in the last few years. So this one has a frozen button as well as a bagel button.
Oh, okay. Well, I want to point out a couple of things, Sharon, that you just mentioned. These are some design things that I think have developed over the years. Like from the 40s and on, little things keep getting tweaked because like we talked about, there's a dual heating element in most of them. There's this pop-up timer thing. There's a timer in it that will pop it up, and there's slots, right? So the consistency of toasting is the two heating elements on both sides, because then you've got the wires that kind of are strung throughout that will give you nice, consistent browning, hopefully. The choice of toastiness. Now that was very interesting because I didn't realize it, but I'm like, you're right. When I was a kid, I don't think you could really, I don't remember having too many options, but the fact that there's a frozen button on yours.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive because
we're fancy.
You're fancy. But the thing is, it's you can choose how toasty it gets depending on how cold, quote unquote cold it is, may go into your toaster. Oh, I do want to point out, nobody really, I mean, as unattractive as this may sound, but that crumb tray is super important. You do need to have, I think, a removable crumb tray in order to clean out
you
stuff.
Don't want it to smoke. No. My dad, when I was growing up, loved, and he still does, but he doesn't do it as much. I don't know. Something about it's bad for you or something he read somewhere, but he loves burnt toast.
I love burnt toast too. Not super burnt toast.
No, he likes super burnt toast.
Really?
Like blackened. He likes blackened toast. Like you can scrape the burn crumbs off there.
Yeah.
You can scrape an entire like burnt layer. That's the way that he likes the toast. So you just turn it up all the way and let it go. And sometimes you'll put it down twice.
Oh, that is very charred.
Yeah, he likes charred burnt toast.
So he's probably filling up his little crumb tray.
So, but when we were growing up, we would eat Pop-Tarts, which I'm going to talk about in a bit.
Yes, I'm excited about this.
And my mom would always make us toast them. And so there was always a burnt smell in the house because we didn't have a removable crumb tray.
Yeah, which is crazy because I remember not having a removable crumb tray either. And so we just tip the entire toaster upside down and give it a good shake over the sink or the garbage can.
Yeah, we never did that. It just always stank.
So I think that's the nice thing about how the design has changed. It's made it a little bit more convenient and such to clean it. A couple of other things that I've never thought about this before, but the slot that the bread goes in or whatever you're putting in there,
right?
The width and the depth really make a difference.
Yeah, and those have grown over the years.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, you can have ones that are just standard bread size, but then bread has kind of gotten longer.
Yeah, there's like the Texas toast and different styles of bread too.
Yeah, so some of them are really tall or some of them are really wide, and so they have toasters to suit your needs if you have wider or taller bread. Yeah, I thought that was super interesting, the toaster, that it has evolved over the years. One thing I have noticed as I was looking at this is that people really take their toasters seriously, because even though the toaster has not changed terribly much, they have things that are fun that they have tried. Now you can control your toaster by the internet.
Oh, what? What? There's like a Bluetooth toaster?
Yeah, the internet toaster. You can,
That's a great way to mess with people in your house.
Yeah. There was another, people just are funny. I love people that just get creative and like, sure, why not? Why don't we make this? So you know that there are toasters that will, I don't know how to put it, hobbyists will get toasters that can toast the Mother Mary face on it or something.
Oh, sure.
Or whatever. And so people are doing that. And there's another person in 2001 from England that would toast a graphic of the weather prediction on one side of your toast. So you could eat and also know what the weather was like. And yeah, I mean, it's just
60% chance of rain.
I know, in England. Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was just really fun. And now a couple last things. Hot dog toaster. You've heard of the hot dog toaster?
No.
You haven't?
No. What?
Are you serious?
Here you go, holding out on shrubs, everybody. And now you're holding out on the hot dog toaster.
The hot dog toaster. So it has...
Don't act like I should know.
You should know because they're in random magazines and stuff like that. Okay.
Are you looking at the Brookstone or the Delta Sky Mall catalog?
Do you not do that when you get on the plane?
No. No, I put in earplugs or an audiobook.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, so this one looks like a toaster, except for there's a slot that are not slots for bread. It's slots for buns. Okay.
Okay. There's a bun slot.
They're kind of like semicircle.
Oh, all right. All right.
Okay.
All right.
So you would probably take it apart, which I feel like it would be a flaw personally for detaching your bun apart.
Yeah. Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants a hot dog on the floor. Mm-mm. And then there's two slots in the middle. Oh, maybe those ones are not I've never used one before, people, but this is what it appears to me. But there's 2 slots in the middle that are circular, and they will cook your hot dog for you.
This must be a Sky Mall specialty item.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to find one and post it in the show notes so you guys know what I'm talking about. I want to know if anybody has one.
Did you see the Stephen Colbert episode recently where Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg was on?
No. Oh, no. She's tough, man.
Oh, I love her. I have a Notorious RBG t-shirt. But she ruled that a hot dog is a sandwich.
She did?
She did. According to the description of sandwich that she was given.
Is it like when the Supreme Court ruled tomatoes as a vegetable?
I thought of you when I was watching it. Yeah.
I will post that. I'm going to go watch that, and then I'll post it in the show notes so you can watch it yourselves.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally didn't know that. Can I say, I'm sorry. I keep saying I have one last thing. This really is my one last thing, and then we'll talk Pop-Tarts and Eggo Waffles because I'm excited about that. So I cannot not speak about toasters without speaking about the person who invented sliced bread.
What?
Otto Frederick Roadweeder from Davenport, Iowa.
Roadweeder?
Rohwedder. So Roadwetter. I don't know. I'm sorry for the Germans out there who are like, Winter, you're not doing a good job with that. So he built a prototype of his bread slicer in 1912. And unfortunately, there was a fire in 1917 that kind of destroyed his prototypes and his blueprints and stuff like that. So he struggled with that and everything. But eventually his idea took on the world. People were really worried that the freshness would go out the window once you pre-slice the bread.
Add more preservatives.
Well, that's probably eventually what they happened. He actually tried to solve the staleness problem by sticking pins through the bread. So you slice it and then put a pin in it and to hold it all together. And then you take off a piece of bread off of that pin. Mm-hmm. But then that just didn't really work out. So he ultimately just had a machine to wrap it in wax paper, the loaves of pre-sliced bread into wax paper, and kind of kept it quite close and together so that it would not go stale. But thank goodness for Mr. Rohwedder. And this was in 1927 where he finally got his machine built and ready to slice bread so we could have toast. And now we compare things to the greatest thing since sliced bread. Like we reference Mr. Rohwedder
all the time.
Yeah. So sliced bread, toasters, it's good stuff.
Well, that segues really good into the Eggo Waffles because did you know that they're kind of old? Eggo Waffles are.
Wait, what do you mean? What do you mean kind of old?
Well, I mean, we think about like that they're very modern because they're toaster waffles and stuff, but they've been around since the 30s, back in 1932. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So, I mean, shortly after I invented sliced bread, along came Eggo Waffles.
Holy cannoli.
Yeah. So Frank Dorsa and his brothers Anthony and Sam, they lived in San Jose, California. So kind of Northern California in the Bay Area.
Okay.
And they started a culinary project in their parents' basement and they created a new brand of mayonnaise.
A new brand of mayonnaise.
Yes, the Eggo brand mayonnaise.
Are you joking me?
No, I'm not.
Really?
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Okay. So I'm assuming the mayo didn't pick up.
No, it did.
It did.
They kind of went through like post-Depression era, tail end of it. And it was quite popular because they boasted 100% fresh ranch eggs and triple refined vegetable oil.
Whoa.
People were hot to trot after this mayonnaise. They loved it.
Eggo mayonnaise.
And then they decided to break into the waffle business shortly thereafter. Waffles as a breakfast food were getting popular. And so they were selling both mayonnaise, this with the fresh ranch eggs and the triple refined vegetable oil, and fresh waffle batter.
Oh, so it was batter. Okay.
That they were selling. So food products. And then they saw an area where they needed to expand because their selling area was kind of limited because they're selling fresh batter.
Oh, yeah. I mean, especially before refrigerated trucks and that type of thing.
And like relatively fresh mayo and stuff like that. So they saw a place where they could kind of grow their brand. And so they created a powdered mix for the waffles.
Which is, that would be the route I would go.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And so then all you had to do was just add milk to their mix.
Right.
And then you had your waffle batter.
Right.
In 1938, they bought the Garden City Potato Chip Factory.
Man, they are.
And expanded their brand. So they
To potato chips?
Yes. Soon there were Eggo chips on the market, as well as noodles, salad dressings, and pretzels.
Okay.
Yeah.
They were going for it.
So in the 50s, they are lasting, 1932 to into the 50s.
So there, you might answer this question. I will ask it if you don't tell me later about the name of Eggo.
Oh, yeah.
So go on, but potato chips and salad dressings and noodles.
Yeah, under the Eggo brand.
Okay.
So in the early 50s, frozen foods started becoming popular. We've talked about this before with like the bagels.
Yeah.
When we talked about bagels.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Frozen foods became popular, so they created a Froffle.
A frozen waffle.
Mm-hmm. That's what they called them, were Froffles. And
Froffle.
yeah. And Kellogg's acquired the Eggo brand in the 70s.
Oh, so took that over.
Yep.
Okay.
And now Kellogg's controls 60% of the $1.2 billion frozen waffle, pancake, and French toast market.
Holy cannoli.
Right? And they still are going strong with that Eggo brand.
They ended up calling it, okay, now.
Eggo Waffles. They just kept with it.
They just stayed with Eggo Waffles.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's Kellogg's Eggo Waffles.
Right.
Oh, for some reason I thought Eggos were a brand, but they were originally.
They originally were a brand, and so they just kind of kept with the brand name Eggo Waffles.
Okay.
So Frank Dorsa, again, he was that original creator with his brothers. He was quite the inventor. At one point, he used a merry-go-round engine to create a huge waffle maker that could make thousands of waffles in an hour.
Oh my goodness.
He also invented a fryer that keeps bacon from curling when you fry it.
Oh.
But he also had some other inventions. But the frozen pancake always eluded him.
I don't think I would want the frozen pancake.
Well, but he did. He had the waffle.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted the pancake.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, he passed away in 1996. And so never got to see that Kellogg's has created the frozen pancake in their Eggo waffle line. There's pancakes as well.
That is interesting.
And the famous ad campaign.
Yes, let's talk about that.
Was created in 1972.
In 72?
Yeah, right?
I thought it was in the 90s when I was a kid.
Right. So it's been going strong since 1972, where the kids at the breakfast table are fighting over the Eggo waffles, and they say, "Let go of my Eggo." And then it just becomes Lego my Eggo.
Lego my Eggo. Well, that Eggo name kind of came in handy. Where did Eggo come in? Do you know?
Well, that was the brand name that they created back in the 30s.
Okay,
they decided they would be Eggo. And it was based off of this mayonnaise that was made with
the ranch eggs. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes a little bit of sense.
Yeah. So the ad campaign for Lego My Eggo was pretty successful, and they finally decided to retire it in 2008, but then they resurrected it in 2014.
I was about to say they did not. I was like,
Yeah.
It's still around. I remember seeing something recently. So,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So that is an enduring thing.
Yeah. It's,
Lego My Eggo.
people are like stealing each other's Eggos. Like, this is something desirable that you want to steal from your sister or brother.
Right.
So Mr. Dorsa, Mr. Dorsa, when he created his waffles that would end up being frozen,
Mm-hmm.
right? So he made waffles in the shape of a waffle, a very small waffle, if you think about it, and always undercook them, right? With the potential of it going into the oven or a toaster later. When did the toaster application come into play?
Actually, that I don't know. I couldn't find out when exactly.
When that transitioned. Because I was going to say, I bet it was in the 40s and 50s when the toaster became a much more household item, appliance.
Right.
That people used, and then it transitioned over. So I just thought that was interesting because right now, like when you pull them out, they're pretty pale looking.
Oh yeah, they're super pale looking. I mean, technically I think they're already baked.
Yeah.
much like our friend the Pop-Tart,
Mm-hmm.
but it is not browned. It has no Maillard reaction.
Yeah.
It's not crunchy.
Mm-hmm.
And that toasting it creates all those things.
Yeah. I really want some waffles now. Dang it.
So moving on with Kellogg's.
Okay.
Kellogg's Pop-Tarts.
Oh, I didn't realize it was a Kellogg's brand.
It is.
Awesome. Okay.
You can see it
Pop-Tarts.
on the bottom and the top of their box.
Okay, you guys, before we hit record, I just want to tell you that we had a little experiment. And I know you're going to get into the history of this, but we had a discussion of to toast or not to toast. So we had 2 different types of Pop-Tarts, 2 uncooked and 2 uncooked, quote unquote uncooked, untoasted, and the other one's toasted. And I'm going to just say that I prefer the toasted version.
And I don't.
And this is why we're different, but still friends.
Yeah. I think that the toasted and the untoasted Pop-Tart are 2 completely different treats.
They are.
They're 2 completely different tastes.
They are as well. I would agree. I feel like the toasted version, the flavors come out a little bit more.
I mean, there's some truth to that, but there's also some truth to the chalky jelly goodness of an uncooked
That sounds terrible.
Pop-Tart.
That sounds terrible. Okay, where did the Pop-Tart
The addictive flavor.
It's true. So many people, and I'm curious to know how many people eat Pop-Tarts.
Oh yeah, they go really fast in my house.
Yeah.
The boys would love for me to buy them every single week, to buy them a couple of boxes every single week, because they can go through 2 big boxes in a week.
Oh man.
But I don't, because nobody needs that many Pop-Tarts.
No.
But Pop-Tarts started with Post cereal, which is not a Kellogg's brand. It's Kellogg's competitor.
It is. How did it start there?
Well, because Post in 1963 decided to hold a press conference to talk about their new toaster pastry that they had in R&D.
Oh.
That would be released in about 6 months' time.
Oh no, you don't do that.
You certainly don't, because then Kellogg's jumps on that bandwagon and beats you to the punch.
Oh my goodness. Why would you do that, Post?
Right? So they had a press conference. You can read about it. There's a Chicago Tribune article that talks about it, to advertise Country Squares.
That you could put
that
in
was their brand.
Okay.
Country Squares. And I will tell you, growing up, we ate Pop-Tarts actually kind of quite a bit. And my mom every once in a while would buy the off-brand.
The Country Squares brand.
I don't know what they were, but they were not good.
Yeah. Okay.
Not good. Don't buy off-brands. I have heard that Trader Joe's might make a fairly decent one, but I don't even know. I can't tell you that because I haven't tried it. So just don't buy an off-brand.
Yeah. Pop-Tarts have a very distinct taste to them.
They do. You don't want to get that not distinct taste.
Yes.
Because it's not good.
So Kellogg's, okay.
So they beat them to the punch.
Before the 6 months or whatever.
Yeah.
When they
so
launched.
they released theirs around the same time, but it was before. So it was in early 1964.
Oh man. Steal your thunder.
Yeah. So it was in 1964 that they released their Pop-Tarts. And they have changed their shapes just slightly since that original release.
Okay. What was the original?
They had rounded edges.
Okay.
And they were scored diagonally through the middle. So you could kind of break them in half and kind of eat them sideways almost.
Oh. So long sticks almost?
No, like a triangle sandwich.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. So kind of interesting.
But they were rectangular.
But they were still rectangular.
Okay, but just with rounded edges.
With rounded edges and then scored diagonally across the front.
Interesting.
They've always had those longish holes in them.
Mm-hmm.
So they, as a design feature, so they don't trap the steam when you're toasting them. So it doesn't become soggy.
Oh, yeah. Soggy Pop-Tarts are as bad as soggy nuts, too. Lee and I have a discussion about soggy nuts. They're gross.
Yeah. No fun.
No fun soggy nuts.
Yeah. So yeah, the first flavors were, let's see, apple currant was a flavor.
Oh, apple currant.
Strawberry, blueberry, and what was the fourth one? I want to say it was like raspberry, cherry, or grape.
Okay.
One of those.
Yeah.
But they've had all of those flavors throughout the years. And currently they've got about 30-ish flavors that they kind of fool around with right now. Some of them are limited edition.
Yeah. And are totally out of control.
Yeah, they've got like a sour apple Jolly Rancher flavor. It's neon green. The boys want to try that. I'm not buying that.
You're like,
That's not
nope,
going in my
definitely
house.
not.
I mean, we already buy like the hot fudge sundae flavor and like
we
the
have
red velvet cake flavor.
now we
Ugh.
have to make a confession that we had the Oreo cookie one tonight.
We did. Because that's one of their favorites.
I just want to say that was like a dessert for me.
It
nice
was,
and
it
cooked,
was.
like toasted, and I'm like, that was good.
I will say that one was particularly better toasted because it tasted like an Oreo.
It totally did. It was
raw when it was cold. It did not. I mean, it was reminiscent of an Oreo,
but definitely not. The toasted version was better.
yeah, it was almost the exact same flavor.
Yeah,
and crunch.
Yeah.
Of the Oreo.
So I don't know if I could justify eating one of those for breakfast, honestly.
No one can. No one can. Are you kidding? So their original packaging, so you'll notice now they've got this weird silver film to them, and it's Mylar, like the Mylar balloons and stuff like that.
It is?
Yeah, that's what this is. They originally were wrapped in foil.
Oh.
But they didn't know how Pop-Tarts would take off, like whether or not they would.
Yeah.
And it was really expensive to individually wrap each one in foil.
Yeah.
And so that's why they come in packs of 2. A serving size is actually only 1 Pop-Tart.
Oh.
But
really?
it was really expensive to foil wrap each one individually. And so they foil wrapped 2 to a package. And then you could either share one like with you and somebody else that you live with, or just save one in the foil pouch. And people just got so used to that packaging that they've always come in 2 now.
Well, and I was going to say the 2 probably, I mean, you got 2, we usually have 2 slots in your toaster.
Yeah.
Why not toast both of them? Right? Even though
and
it's
eat them
2 times the serving size.
Yeah. Yeah. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Oh my gosh.
They've just done it basically now because it's tradition.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I love the fact that it got started because of Post was not very smart.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like, really, let's be honest. You should not do that. Somebody's going to jump on that bandwagon and beat you to the punch, and they totally did. That was not very smart, Post.
Yeah. So another competitor of the Pop-Tart.
The Toaster Strudel.
Yeah, the Toaster Strudel. That's from Pillsbury.
Well, so I think those are really good, but...
I've never had one.
You've never had one?
No.
Because they're like a strudel, like it's flaky.
It's a lot to mess with.
It is, but
they're frozen. One,
yeah,
I can't eat them out of the bag like I do. So when I was little, my mom would make us breakfast every morning, like before elementary school and stuff, and like she would make oatmeal and put raisins in it and like things that I didn't like. And then finally she got so sick of me not eating breakfast that she started getting things that I would eat, like cold cereal and things like that. And sometimes she'd have these Pop-Tarts, but she would always make us heat them up. And I burnt my mouth on them so many times when I was a kid.
It's molten.
Yeah, it is. And
strawberry filling is molten.
It is. And if you leave it in the toaster long enough, it can start a fire.
Oh, dude.
There are many stories that you can find online about people starting fires with a Pop-Tart and people doing experiments with a Pop-Tart. You can get flames up to a foot high out of your toaster if you let it go.
Cannoli.
So now on every box of Pop-Tarts, there is a caution warning that there's a risk of extreme heat, that children need to
be supervised,
appliances vary, and times given are approximate, and due to the possible risk of fire, never leave your appliance unattended while in use.
Oh, my goodness.
That's why from teenage years on, I think I've gotten a taste for the cold Pop-Tart.
No.
But see, the Toaster Strudel to me is a lot to mess with because it's already frozen.
It is.
And then I've got to put like this stuff on there, like the frosting once it's hot.
Yeah.
Like that's, to me, when I was a kid, that was like preparing a meal.
That's like 2 extra steps. I mean, you got no time for that. Oh my gosh. I think they're really good.
Yeah.
But you're right. Pop-Tarts just have a very different taste to them.
Mm-hmm.
Say artificial. E.
Oh, yes. Yes, totally. There's no real anything about it. They're all artificial.
But they are good.
And there's no nutritional value.
I know. I'm like,
don't eat them, but eat them. Toaster Strudels came around in 1985 as a direct competitor to Pop-Tarts. And their slogan was, "Something better just popped up."
Oh, snap.
Dang.
Well, if you're Kellogg's, you stole Post's thunder, so
I liked
it's
that.
a dog out world out there.
It totally is.
Toaster, strudel, Pop-Tarty world.
So when I did research, I found obviously the Toaster Strudel Wikipedia page.
Yeah, because it's a thing.
And it mentions Pop-Tarts in there. And it's a very short entry in Wikipedia, which I kind of feel is pretty sad. Because 1985, that's still some history, you know?
Yeah.
It's over 30 years. Like
Yeah.
they should have something in here. But my favorite entry on their Wikipedia page was usage in pop culture.
Where?
In the 2004 teen movie Mean Girls,
Oh.
it was fictitiously claimed that Gretchen Wiener's family fortune was due to her father's invention of the toaster strudel.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. You gotta love Wikipedia for those little tidbits.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. I feel really good about that. That was a very interesting discussion about toaster foods and the toaster.
Iconic breakfast toaster foods.
I know. What other things do people put in toasters besides that, right? Bread and
Bagels.
bagels. We talked about bagels.
We did.
Yeah. I do like toasted bagels as well because they can get stale and it's a way to enhance that freshness
Yeah,
yet again.
definitely.
Okay, well, good deal. Do you guys like Pop-Tarts raw or toasted?
Let us know. Do you like the Maillard reaction going on in your Pop-Tart?
Woo woo. That's
It is tasty, but it's a little bit of work.
You should side with me because come on, people.
The addictive chalky jelly taste.
Just when you describe it that way. Ugh.
You know you want some.
Ugh.
Let's have a food fight.
Food fight, food fight, food fight, food fight.
This is the segment where you can email us with your relationship questions relating to food. You can email us at hungrysquared@gmail.com.
Disclaimer, we are in no way professional relationship experts, but you should totally listen to us anyway. If you need professional help, please seek it out.
Food fight, food fight, food fight. The food fight segment of the show. Here we go.
Winter, do you have our question this week?
I do, and it's a very short one, and I feel like we both have been in this situation before.
Oh, okay. Let's hear it.
Hey, ladies, I live with a couple of roommates, and I'm not sure who the culprit is, but someone keeps eating my food. It ticks me off. How? I just think that's so funny.
Sorry, I'm not laughing.
I know. I was like, I know how this person's feeling, so... How do I broach this topic with them? Or should I go about it in a passive-aggressive way? Thanks. Out of milk. Again.
Passive aggressive with food always wins.
Does it? Does it? Does it?
It makes for entertaining Instagram and Tumblr posts.
Oh, yeah. It does. Has this happened to you, Sharon?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah. We've both lived in
I think I've lived
roommate situations
with over 100 people.
Yeah, and I have not as many as you have, but a dozen, at least a dozen, maybe 24 people.
Yeah, no, I've had quite a few. When I was in college, I lived with like everybody crammed into an apartment, you know.
Right.
So
and there's limited space for food anyway in the fridge or in cupboards.
Right.
So, how would you handle this?
I got into the habit of going home from a restaurant, especially. You know, you have leftovers and you went to your favorite place. And if I didn't go with roommates, because I usually lived with friends, but if I happened to not go out with my roommates, like it was a date or just a different friend group or something like that, I would outright lie. I'm not ashamed to say it. I would outright lie and tell them that I went somewhere gross.
Or where they wouldn't want to have the leftovers.
Yeah. So then they wouldn't even bother to look in the
little container,
the box.
Yeah. That's not a bad idea, actually.
I would also
a little deception.
Yeah. Or where I would lie about what the dish was. I find, especially with boys, if you tell them that there is some type of like, oh, I got
a salad,
kale, like just kale, something or other, you know, oh, it's a kale squash puree, you know, they're just like, nope, pass.
Yeah.
And you could have like pie in there or like,
and
you know,
do not want to give that
French fries or, you know, whatever it is, steak, you know, it's safe.
It's safe. Now, I think you could probably throw fish in there too, because a lot of people are not going to want to reheat fish.
Oh, and they are not going to want that smell.
Nope. Okay.
So you could lie about your food.
You can be passive aggressive sort of that way, like just be subtle and deceptive.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some passive aggressive people in the break rooms where I've worked.
Oh, So this is kind of
the notes that they leave and stuff like that is pretty funny. Not anything that's like internet worthy that I've seen some of those.
There's some pretty internet worthy ones.
They're great. But, you know, I've seen people leaving notes like, whoever keeps drinking my milk. And I mean, there's some things like out of milk again. That like, if you have roommates, you should probably all go in on the milk together.
Yeah, because you all cannot have a gallon of milk in the fridge.
That is not going to work out.
That real estate is valuable.
It is. And can a single person go through milk? I mean, maybe. But like, sometimes it can be hard to go through that gallon or whatever it is in a week's time before it goes bad.
Right.
So there's some things like staples and stuff like that where I finally worked out with my last roommates, several, that like, you know, we can all just go in on this together.
Yeah, it's no big deal. I agree. I think
kind of like the toilet paper or whatever. Right. We all just kind of take a turn.
Yeah. So that's kind of, that would be my suggestion, like just talking about it openly and saying, hey, there's a few things that I'm like, I know I'm not going to go through this said whatever big bag of romaine lettuce or whatever. Mm-hmm. Do you guys want to use some of it? So that there's kind of an open door policy on certain things.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a good idea, is to have an open door policy on certain things and talk about that. And so that can bring up the topic of what is not free game.
Exactly.
You know, if I write, do not eat on something, don't eat it.
Yeah. Because I think that might not be a bad way, because there's been times when I'm like when I was preparing for a special something like a dinner I was going to make, or I was planning on making a pie, but I really needed to hold on to this amount of whatever was in the fridge. And so I kind of made a note of that so that they wouldn't eat
this
whatever.
Has been earmarked. This butter has been earmarked for the cookies that I'm making tomorrow.
Exactly. Because I don't want to make a late night run to go make cookies for the next day or something. So yes, I think just having a good open conversation about it helps a lot. Now, if it's in the break room or a work situation, sometimes you don't know who's doing it, because those break rooms are shared by a ton of people.
You don't.
You have no idea.
That's why people are leaving nasty notes.
Yeah. And so you can't really approach them. But in the roommate situation, I think it's a little bit better to probably just talk about it. Be okay with some things.
Just be open and don't be stingy with your food. Don't be... Yeah. Like share, you should share some of it. I think if you're sharing living space with other people, you can also, in a sense, you can afford to share some of your food. Yeah. That's part of the cost of living with other people, I feel. And you don't have to shoulder that cost alone or anything like that. Please don't let people eat you out of house and home.
Exactly.
But also like there's a line, like, and I think, you know, you need to kind of step up to the line to be a little bit more generous sometimes.
Yeah. And I think they will also be as well.
Yeah, for sure. That goes both ways. I mean, even if they're not into cooking, maybe they have a super cute wardrobe or something, you know.
There are other things that can be shared.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it doesn't just have to be food. Like, oh yeah, you know, she doesn't cook and she kind of eats my food, but I get to drive her car and she has a really nice car.
Or she gives me a ride, or, you know, like whatever it happens to be. So that's, I mean, there's kind of some give and take. So if food is really important, then maybe don't purchase those really expensive things that you don't feel okay sharing. It's almost kind of like not buying really nice appliances and stuff. Too many nice new knives or something like that with roommate, because you got to be careful about that kind of stuff, because they could ruin it.
Yeah.
But there's that risk, because you know there's a possibility they could be using it. So I don't know. I think you should talk about it. Just come to an agreement. I think it'll be fine.
Yeah, and it's just food.
food is a way of being nice to people. So
It is. Pensy Spices has a cute bumper sticker that they give away sometimes, and it says, "Love people, cook them tasty food."
yeah. So show them kindness. Your roommate, it might help your relationship out.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us today for our show. You can find us at hungrysquared.com, on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play Music, and now on Spotify.
Woohoo! Hey, you guys, are you following us on Instagram at Hungry Squared? Because we like to put stuff on Instagram, or on Facebook.
Yeah.
At Hungry Squared Podcast. That's been a lot of fun to hang out and do live videos.
Yeah. And we do giveaways and tons of fun things.
So follow us there, like our page, and then you'll get alerts when we do some random stuff like that. Because it's fun. So anyway, join us next week for our next episode of Food Nerdery.
Okay, love you. Bye.
Bye.
Hungry Squared, yeah, Hungry Squared.